Hey, Grant. I'm going to read pages 276, 277, 78, and 79 tonight. Feel free to follow along. It's no one's fault but Potter's, Karkaroff said Snape softly. His black eyes were alight with malice. Don't go blaming Dumbledore for Potter's determination to break the rules. He's been crossing lines ever since he arrived here. Thank you, Severus, said Dumbledore firmly, and Snape went quiet as though his eyes glinted malevolently through his curtain of greasy black hair. Professor Dumbledore was now looking down at Harry, who looked right back at him, trying to discern the expression of the eyes behind his half moon spectacles. Did you put your name in the goblet of fire, Harry? He asked calmly. No, said Harry. He was aware everyone was watching him closely. Snape made a soft noise of impatient disbelief in the shadows. Did you ask for an older student to put it in the goblet of fire for you? Said Dumbledore, ignoring Snape. No, said Harry vehemently. Ah, but of course, he's lying, said Madame Maxime. Snape was now shaking his head, his lip curling. He could not have crossed the age line, said Professor McGonagall. I'm sure we all agree on that. Dumbledore must have made a mistake with the line, said Madame Maxime, shrugging. It is possible, of course, said Dumbledore politely. Dumbledore, you know perfectly well you did not make a mistake, said Professor McGonagall angrily. Really, what nonsense. Harry could not have crossed the line himself, and as Professor Dumbledore believes he did not persuade an older student to do it for him, I'm sure that would be good enough for everyone else. He shot a very angry look at Professor Snape. Mr. Crouch, Mr. Bagman, said Karkaroff, his voice unctuous once more. You are our objective judges. Surely you will agree this is most irregular. Bagman wiped his round, boyish face with his handkerchief and looked at Mr. Crouch, who was standing outside the circle of the firelight, his face half hidden like a shadow. He looked slightly eerie, his half darkness making him look much older, giving him an almost skull like appearance. When he spoke, however, it was in his usual curt voice. We must follow the rules, and the rules state clearly that those people whose names come out of the Goblet of Fire are bound to compete in the tournament. Well, Barty knows the rule book back to front, said Bagman, beaming and turning back to Karkaroff and Madame Maxime, as though the matter was now closed. I insist upon resubmitting the names of the rest of my students, said Karkaroff. He had dropped his unctuous tone and his smile now. He wore a face very ugly look, or with a very ugly look indeed. You will set up the goblet of fire once more, and we will continue to add names until each school has two champions. It is only fair, Dumbledore. But Karkaroff, it doesn't work like that, said Bagman. The goblet of fire's just gone out. It won't reignite until the start of the next tournament. In which Durmstrang will almost certainly not be competing, exploded Karkaroff. After all our meetings and negotiations and compromises, I little expected something of this nature to occur. I have a half mind to leave now. Empty threat, Karkaroff, growled a voice near the door. You can't leave the champion now. He's got to compete. They've all got to compete. Binding magical contract, like Dumbledore said. Convenient, huh? Moody had entered the room. He limped towards the fire. With every right step he took, there was a loud clunk. Convenient, said Karkaroff. I'm afraid I don't understand you, Moody. Harry could tell that he was trying to sound disdainful, as though what Moody had been saying was barely worth his notice, but his hands gave it away. They balled themselves into fists. Don't you? Said Moody quietly. It's very simple, Karkaroff. Someone put Potter's name in the goblet, knowing he'd have to compete if it came out. Evidently, someone who wished to give Hogwarts two bites at the apple, said Madame Maxime. I quite agree, Madame Maxime, said Karkaroff, bowing to her. I shall be lodging complaints with the Ministry of Magic and the International Confederation of Wizards. If anyone's got a reason to complain, it's Potter, growled Moody. But, funny thing, I don't hear him saying a word. Why should he complain? Burst out Fleur Delacour, stamping her foot. He has a chance to compete, hasn't he? We've all been hoping to be chosen for weeks and weeks. The honor for our schools, 1,000 galleons in prize money. This is a chance many would die for. Maybe someone's hoping Potter is going to die for it, said Moody, with the merest trace of a growl. An extremely tense silence followed the words. Ludo Bagman, who was looking very anxious indeed, bounded nervously up and down on his feet and said, Moody, old man, what a thing to say. We all know Professor Moody, Considers the morning wasted if he hasn't discovered 6 plots to murder him by lunchtime, said Karkaroff loudly. Apparently, he is now teaching his students to fear assassination too. An odd quality in defense against the dark arts teacher, Dumbledore, but no doubt you had your reasons. Imagining things, am I? Growled Moody. Seeing things, huh? I've got a skilled witcher wizard who put the boy's name in the goblet. Ah, but what evidence is there of that? Said Madame Maxine, throwing up her huge hands. Because they're hoodwinked, a very powerful magic object, said Moody. It would have needed an exceptionally strong Confundus charm to bamboozle the goblet in forgetting that only 3 schools compete in the tournament. I'm guessing they submitted Potter's name under a 4th school to make sure he was the only one in the category. You seem to have given this a great deal of thought, Moody, said Karkaroff coldly. A very ingenious theory it is, though, of course, I heard you recently got your head into one of your birthday presents containing a cunningly disguised basilisk egg and smashed it to pieces before realizing it was a carriage clock. So you'll understand if we don't take you entirely seriously. We'll pick up and finish this one tomorrow. Love you.